Welcome to another fun-filled, all-new edition of Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom style.
Along with Lakina McGee and Lamont Scott, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG, as the kids will call these social media streets, at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
You can follow me at Lamont Scott on Facebook, Lamont Scott 69 on Instagram, and Lamont Scott 16 on Twitter.
You can go to our website, weareregalradio.com. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. And you can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, along with our other podcast programming from War Media by simply searching for War on Anchor. Wherever you download your podcast, make sure you search War on Anchor. We also on iHeartRadio. Please download the iHeartRadio app, and you can do the same thing there by searching for War on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor. And we're also on the Tube, aka YouTube. You can not only listen to us, you can watch us do our thing live at War Media. Once again, that WARR Media on the YouTube. And what the hell? Y'all can go and you know the rest.
You can see our beautiful faces.
Yes,
and make sure like, subscribe, and tell your friends and share.
And share.
That's important.
Look alive. I won't sing for this one, so we'll leave that alone. One team in town that's looking alive here today is the Chicago Bears. The 6-game losing streak is over. This is not a joke. This is reality. Unfortunately, the 6-game losing streak is now over. The Bears defeated the Houston Texans for the first time in their franchise history by the score of 36-7. I'll give you my 10-second analysis on Sunday's win. Lakina, back to you.
No.
Meh, that's mine. Meh. I mean, I have a confession to make. All of you, to you guys, my great friends, and to all of my friends who are going to be listening to this, even strangers. I didn't watch a single second of the second half because I was like, meh. Okay. You beat a team you beat a team you're barely better than. Okay, yeah, it was the first time you won it since the Houston Texans had been in existence. I think they were like 1 or 0-5 or 0-6, in all their meetings. So I'm like, whatever. Mm-hmm. It didn't really wow me. I mean, okay, yeah, you guys could have done better against that Texans defense. I mean, because you know how some of these fans are, right? You're like, see, Pace did the right thing by picking Trubisky over Watson. Look, he doesn't
Don't you believe it?
Exactly. I mean, he didn't have his wide receiving core. David Johnson didn't play yesterday. That's his top running back. The defense is not very good. Okay, yeah, you got Watt and Merciless, but there's a shell of themselves. A lot of those the secondary is terrible. Okay, yeah, big deal. Back to you, Lamont.
I had an interesting and unique experience with the game. I couldn't watch the game because I was out of the market. So all of the highlights and hearing of the game, they made it seem like Mitch Trubisky was the greatest man on earth. And the Bears defense was the most dominant defense in the NFC. Now, all I'm getting is the clips, the game cuts, because I was waiting on the Saints game, right? So we wasn't getting it, and I was down there watching that, and they made it seem like, so when I got here, I couldn't wait to ask y'all, did the Bears really look that good? Like, was Trubisky really better than Watson and Mahomes? I mean, they was talking like the greatest game of Trubisky's career, how the Bears have made a mistake. And I'm down there scratching my head like, what games have y'all been watching? But yes, the media did not attack him. They praised him and their defense. They said the Mac is back. I even heard that. I haven't heard that in 2 months. They say the Mac is back. I mean, like, did they really just kick their butt? Or like, I know better. Like, I was down there like, y'all lying to yourself. Ain't none of this true. But yeah, they made it seem like the Bears was like doing their thing. Man, I just couldn't believe it.
Well, I have some stats for you from Sunday's win against the Houston Texans, and I'm just reading it off of ESPN.com. Mitchell Trubisky was 24 of 33 for 267 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions. That's right, folks, no interceptions. David Montgomery, who scored the first touchdown on the game, on the second play of the game, had 11 carries for 113 yards, including the 80-yard touchdown run to open the game in the first quarter. Cordell Patterson had his usual 6 carries for 26 yards, and his longest run was 12 yards. For receiving the Bears, Allen Robinson had 9 catches, 123 yards, including the touchdown. Darnell Mooney, 2 catches, 22 yards, including the touchdown reception. Jimmy Graham finally showed up in the end zone on Sunday with 4 catches for 23 yards. The Bears' offense, going to the stat sheet, did look good. And so there's no complaints there. Give credit to offensive coordinator Bill Lazor. Will this be a formidable success moving forward as you play the Minnesota Vikings on the road next week? We'll get to them against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers later. But do you guys see hope that this formula continues from now to the end of the season, or is just a luck of the Irish?
I think if they have another game like that, I think if they beat Green Bay, Matt Nagy's job safe. I can tell you that. They won't go. I can tell you that.
Don't give them any more ideas, Lamont. Don't do that.
I'm just talking about from the feel from around the other people I was checking and stuff. And if Matt Nagy beat Green Bay, and don't let him beat Minnesota and Green Bay, his job is definitely safe. And when you look at it, if they re-sign Allen Robinson and they keep Darnell Mooney, I mean, I hear Cole Kmet was playing his butt off from the highlights I did catch. They say Cole Kmet was doing all the work, and then they gave Jimmy Graham, what's that, his 6th touchdown this year, I heard?
Mm-hmm.
So technically he has showed up in the end zone, nowhere else on the field, but they say Cole Kmet was looking like a beast out there. I mean, was he?
I mean,
yeah, Cole Kmet had 4 catches for 41 yards.
Yeah, he did. Look, I'm going to keep it fresh and simple here. Look, you did what you're supposed to do against a bad Texans team. Okay, fine, whatever. You're going to be playing a Minnesota team that's not going to be in a very good mood because it felt like they let that game against the Bucs slip away. We'll get to them in a second. This is just a flash in the pan. Look, they'll probably end up finishing 7-9, 8-8 or whatever, and they'll miss the playoffs. And look, we know who this team is, so I'm glad that there are some Bears fans who are being reasonable and say, you know what, okay, fine, you beat a bad team, so what? Who cares? And I think nobody really is sort of falling for this mirage, if you will, because the defense did great. And I hate it when this happens. They talk up all this stuff. They use all that stuff that people have been saying about it as motivation. Fine, whatever. Okay, where was this the last 6 games?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that I'm sorry. I mean you're not going to get bouquets and cookies or Christmas gingerbread cookies for beating a team that you're barely better than. I'm sorry. You're not going to get any for me because you know how some of these fans are.
What you think the story? I heard Mario Edwards was having such a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Another one. Who else they said? Was Bilal Nichols having a good game also? They said that a couple of the defensive people showed that the Bears defense just may have a future. And I couldn't believe none of the stuff. I'm not going to lie to you. Every time I would hear something or catch it, I was not believing none of the hype because I've sat through this whole season. So I'm sitting there looking like, y'all crazy. But later on, when we get into that other game, it actually explains why they can believe the hype of the Bears, because they don't believe a lot of the stuff they see with their own eyes for their own teams. So I'm like, okay, I can understand it now. But yeah, coming home, they made it seem like the Bears was ready to beat up the Packers and Tampa Bay again.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakina McGee and Lamont Scott. I am Sidney Brown as we review the Chicago Bears 36-7 victory over the Houston Texans from this past Sunday. Taking a look at the defensive stats for the Chicago Bears, Roquan Smith had a great game on Sunday with 12 total tackles, including 8 solo tackles, including 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. He knocked out Deshaun Watson late in that third quarter. I actually saw that play live. Danny Trevathan had 10 total tackles, including 4 solo tackles. Eddie Jackson had 4 tackles. He actually had a decent game on Sunday. Akeem Hicks returned to the lineup with 2 solo tackles, and Mario Edwards Jr., as you mentioned, Lamont, he had 2 tackles, including 2 sacks. Khalil Mack actually returned to the stat sheet as far as sacks are concerned with 1. So the defense had a great performance on Sunday. You can give credit to defensive coordinator Chuck Pagano. As I want to piggyback off your point, Lakina, it was a great performance stat-wise, and looking at the highlights as I did, it was great. But where the hell was this the last 6-7 weeks?
Well, look, and also too, let's remember we know the O line for the Texans is trash. So, I mean, yeah, you're gonna have these kind of stats. I mean, look, Roquan Smith has been consistent. You know, the whole season. He'll probably end up getting the Pro Bowl berth. I mean, look, Mario Edwards Jr. I mean, it could he be the guy that you kind of build the defense around, which you're probably going to have to maybe wipe the slate clean and start over. Or you're going to have him, do that. Look, I mean, Tayshaun Gibson had had some tackles as well. Trevathan, did his thing, but again, this is against a really bad O line in the Texans, so. Of course, you're going to have 7 sacks. A defense is going to have 7 sacks. Mm-hmm. And, they knocked Deshaun Watson out the game. And at this point, if you're Deshaun Watson, you probably would tell the brass, hey, I'm not playing the rest of the season. I'm sorry. We know he's a great competitor, but no, he's you don't want him to get really hurt out there. You got to protect his future. So that there. So, I mean, look, okay, yeah, the defense, had your best performance in like 6 weeks. Okay, where was this the last 6 weeks? I'm going to keep saying it, too.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking on that defense, Lakina, Buster Screen's replacement. Somebody told me his replacement did really good. I think his last name, Stuckles. It starts with an S. The guy that replaced Buster Screen, Shelley. They say he hits really hard. That's all they was telling me. They say he made some hard hits. I'm like, okay. I didn't see it. But I'm going to go back and watch the game today because I did record it. But did he do anything special, or was it just the Texans are just that bad?
The Texans were just that bad. They were missing their key players as well with Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, who's always hurt, and running back David Johnson. So Deshaun Watson had a limited group of people that he had to work with on Sunday. So you can give the Bears credit as far as doing what they're supposed to do, but on the flip side, the Texans were dealing with a lot of injuries as well.
And suspensions too. Remember, Fuller was suspended. Bradley Roby was suspended. That's a whole nother thing of the story there. But
Fuller out 6 games for them drugs. He might be in trouble. He wasn't doing nothing when he was in there. So he was supposed to have been the replacement for D-Hop. He might be in trouble.
Yep.
So, and if I was Deshaun, if they gave him the money so he can't run, but I'd be talking like, man, y'all want to move me if y'all want to. But they gave him that money so he can't run from the money because they gave him the money already. That's the thing when they give you that money, man. When they give you that money, you can't run. That's like while I was gone, I kept hearing a lot of, will Dak be the Bears' next quarterback? That's what they're talking about on Southern radio. I don't think so. I don't see that ever happening, but hey, who knows?
Which brings up the point of with these next 3 games remaining on the Bears' 2020 schedule. The question still remains, will Matt Nagy and Brian Pace be headed out the door together? As I said all year for both of those guys, no playoffs equals no jobs, and that's for both of them. As we talked about it, Lakina, on our last podcast, if you believe all the reports that's coming out of here in Chicago, that Ryan Pace is all but gone at the end of the year. It seems that Matt Nagy, his job is protected only because that he has 2 years left on his contract. Ryan Pace just has 1 year left on his contract. I do not want the Bears to use COVID-19 as an excuse. No, the fans were not allowed in the stands this year. We understand that, but I don't want them to use it as an excuse to keep head coach Matt Nagy. You can get rid of Ryan Pace. Okay, he has 1 year left, but Matt Nagy has 2 years left on his contract. It's going to break the bank, so we're forced to keep him. I don't want to hear any of that crap. But I'm getting the sense that we may have that situation among us on January 4th when we wake up and see that there's some change, but not what we as fans expect. I'm just afraid of that.
But see it, if he beat the Packers, he's not going anywhere if he beat the Packers. And if you look at that offense, what they didn't put up, 60 points in the last 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
They made the change 3 weeks ago, right, to Bill Lazor?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that first week was an off week, and maybe now they understand that you have to move Trubisky around if you want him to be successful and keep him in the 2-minute offense. I think the Bears are ranked somewhere high in the 2-minute offense drill. I think if you run a constant 2-minute type situation with Mr. Trubisky, he seems to think, react, and work better. I've been saying that for like 2 years, to make him think quick and move and not have to sit and read. So maybe Bill Lazor has figured out something, because they've scored more points in the last 2 weeks than they scored in the last 4 weeks before that. So, I mean, maybe they have figured out something, but I can almost tell you if he beat the Packers, man, the man's job ain't going nowhere. I don't think he's going nowhere.
Let's just play out your scenario, Lamont. Let's just say they somehow beat Minnesota on the road next week, and they beat Jacksonville. They're terrible. Well, going to that Green Bay game, remember, folks, and this is permanent now, you have one bye week per conference. So Green Bay right now is battling New Orleans for that bye week in the playoffs. Let's just say that Green Bay has everything wrapped up. Of course, I think they have the North wrapped up.
Yeah, they do. They do.
If New Orleans just keeps winning, that game against the Bears on the last Sunday of the season, of the regular season, won't mean anything to them. Aaron Rodgers will probably sit. Jamal Adams, probably Devontae Adams will probably sit. So I don't want Bears fans to get caught up in fool's gold. And you know the McCaskies want to get caught up in fool's gold. Let's just say they lose to Minnesota but beat Jacksonville and beat Green Bay without Green Bay's stars, because they're sitting because they don't have anything to play for. Do you really want to go based off those last 3 games for Matt Nagy? No. Bill Lazor, I can understand that because he just got the job a couple weeks ago, as Lamont mentioned. But if you're going to evaluate Matt Nagy on these last few games, that's just fool's gold to me. And I'm afraid that the McCaskies are going to sit on that as well for Nagy. It just doesn't make any common football sense.
Well, you look at the Packers. No, it's okay, Lamont. Just want to do this real quickly. Look at the Packers schedule. I mean, they got the Panthers next Monday night. They got the
Saturday.
Titans. Saturday night, my bad. And then they got the Titans on Sunday night, and then they got the Bears after that. So they could probably wrap up the number 1 seed. And yes, could all the guys you mentioned, could they end up sitting? Yeah, sure, absolutely they can. But you know how the McCaskies are. You know they like to kind of get wrapped up in the fool's, and like you said, sit in the fool's gold and use it as an excuse to kind of keep Nagy and Pace. But again, I mean, the Bears don't have a bad schedule either. So yeah, outside of Jacksonville, Lord knows what will happen in that game. But you're going to be facing a Minnesota team that's not very good. That's going to be not in a very good mood after losing against the Bucs. And then the Packers, will see where they are. But again, they end up, if you end up finishing 8-8 and 9-7, that's still not good enough, because you'll probably still miss the playoffs. So I don't but the mindset of some of the McCaskies. So who knows what might happen? I think it's one of those things where you just don't know at this point.
But when you add in all of those factors that you and Sid mentioned, I think even if Green Bay rest everybody, them other McCaskey factors and the contract factor, when you add all of that in, they would even keep them. What I feel, they would even keep him, because he got 2 and Pace got 1, right?
Yep.
They would even keep him another. They would even keep him if he win that situation and win that game. They would even keep him another year and then allow them all to leave together, than to just dump him now, especially if he win that game.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakina McGee and Lamont Scott. I am Sidney Brown as we now transition to talk about the rest of the action from the National Football League from Week 14. We'll start with the Minnesota Vikings as they were down by the Buccaneers 26-14. Minnesota is tied with the Bears on the outside, looking in at the NFC playoffs at 6-7. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers improved their record to 8-5. Looking at this game briefly from Sunday, guys, Tom Brady didn't have the greatest game. He only had 196 yards passing. The Buccaneers survived on defense and running the football. Ronald Jones had a touchdown. He had 18 carries overall for 80 yards. On the flip side for Minnesota, Dalvin Cook had 102 yards on 22 carries, including a first half touchdown. Kirk Cousins did not have a good game. Yes, he passed for 225 yards and threw a touchdown pass, but he was sacked 6 times, including twice on their last drive to seal the deal for the Buccaneers. The Vikings kicker, Dan Bailey, missed 4 kicks, including 3 field goals and an extra point. If Mike Zimmer was serious about keeping his team on track and finishing this season strong, he would cut Dan Bailey today, but I don't think that's going to happen.
What's so funny, Lamont?
He said cut him today. He said cut him today. He tried to cut the man today, Sid. No, I mean, Tampa Bay also showed something too. It's a long season, Mr. Brady. Is your body holding up for the rest of the season? Some of his throws looked like they was falling kind of short. Not that I, ever counting them out, especially in big game with rest situations. But yeah, Minnesota may be in a bad mood, but if we run into Minnesota with a bad kicker, that might be another upset for the Bears, man. So we might want the kicker to stay bad right now if we're a Bear fan. But in reality, Tampa Bay survived, as you said, but I don't see them surviving a lot of other teams.
So, well, for me, look, you left a lot of points on the board if you're Minnesota. There was some other things that that happened after those, beside those extra points and the missed field goals. Kirk Cousins had a key fumble that kind of stalled the drive there. So they probably will not be in a very good mood. Look, if you're Tampa, you take the win, I guess. And if you're Brady, you're kind of wondering, is he showing the 42-year-old body is showing, Father Time is undefeated. So, didn't have his best game, but they did just enough to win. So you gotta take the win and try to, improve your seed for the NFC playoffs.
Yeah, but it's also too in last notes from that game. It was nice to see Scotty Miller and Robert Gronkowski both reach the end zone.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I think that was his. I think Miller. I think that was like one of his, not his first, but I think he's still in the single digits. So that's always nice to see. And also, we always love when Gronk gets in the end zone. So that's always fun.
And Scotty Miller, one of them guys I root for. Like him, Beasley, look, guys like that, I root for. Remind me of
Oh, yes, that's a name going way back.
Other action from Week 14, the Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Miami Dolphins 33-27. I did watch this game the entire first half via my computer. As we said, Lakina, in our last episode, this game was going to be competitive. The Dolphins never gave up. But Kansas City took over in that third quarter. The Dolphins made it interesting late, but the Chiefs barely held on for a victory. Patrick Mahomes, he had 3 interceptions, but he had 2 touchdown passes for 393 yards. Travis Kelce came up big with 8 catches for 136 yards, including the big touchdown reception towards the end of that first half. Tyreek Hill had a big game as well with 1 rushing touchdown and 1 receiving touchdown. If Tyreek Hill is not the fastest guy in the NFL, I don't know who is.
Yeah, I'll say I want to know who that guy is. I mean, that guy is a freak of nature, Freak Hill, as I call him. Look, Pat Mahomes showed he was a little bit human, those 3 interceptions, but the defense, the Miami defense is pretty good, so you'll forgive him for that. I mean, they did enough to win that game. They kind of kept kept the ball away from Tua in that offense late. So, look, you're gonna have these kinds of games that you're gonna be sort of you're gonna get your best shot from everybody. And the Chiefs, play the Saints next Sunday, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll get to that on Friday, but that was a very entertaining game. I also watched it too via my laptop.
I caught the highlights of it, and I like that cornerback for Miami, and they got him playing again. He playing up with the Edwards guy. That was like the interceptions that he had. One of them, he took the ball from the receiver on one of the interceptions. The other two was tipped. But I still think that people are showing the cracks in the Kansas City armor. If you hit them and you run on them, you can beat them. Like, I don't feel like they can't be beat. Like, I feel like they found a way to win. They found a way to win 3 of these games that they won. And I don't look at it so much as them finding a way as the other team allowing them to find a way. So you can't play a perfect game, which is, no one plays a perfect game, but you got to play as close to perfect as possible to beat him. But I do think if you slap him around enough, he starts to get a little bit rattled and starts to throwing it off a little quicker than what he normally does. But they still probably the best team in the NFL right now, since another team that I'm fond of decided show the world that they wasn't as good as they thought they was.
We'll get to them later.
Yeah. Xavier Howard, who you're talking about for the Dolphins, been to a couple of Pro Bowls. Been to a couple of Pro Bowls, the corner.
Yeah, he has 5 straight games now with an interception. We talked about him on Friday, Lakina.
Yes, we did.
He could be a difference maker, and he did take one away late in that third quarter from Tyreek Hill, so he's a pretty good one as well. Another game that I watched in its entirety via my computer, the Arizona Cardinals get back on track, defeating the New York Giants 26-7. Lakina, I know we both picked I picked the New York Giants on our last episode. They did not show up yesterday. They showed up physically, but as far as football-wise, not so much. Kyler Murray, he was 24 for 35 for 244 yards to the touchdown pass. Kenyon Drake, 23 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins showed back up on the score sheet, 9 catches for 136 yards. Lakina, Arizona still hanging on to a wild card spot at 7-6. Sunday's game proved to me that they could win a big game on the road with their backs against the wall. But the Arizona's defense really showed up on Sunday.
I was surprised. I thought this game was going to be a lot closer. I picked Arizona, but I thought this was going to be very close. I mean, Arizona, they basically, they dominated that game from the word go. I mean, Hassan Reddick had 5 sacks. I think that's the first time, in a few years that's happened. I think Adrian Claiborne, you got to go all the way back to the mid-2000s. Adrian Claiborne did it. Dennis Gedrick had a couple of big sacks. So look, this is probably their best performance of the season for the defense. You're going to need that if you want to go farther, get into the playoffs and go far. And, look, Kyler Murray did his thing. DeAndre Hopkins did his thing. They kept the drives going. They kept the offense from the Giants off the field. The defense did. And the Giants, I don't know what the heck happened. I mean, they did not – Daniel Jones did not look good at all.
He was hurt. He was hurt. That's what they problem was. He was hurt. You see him kept getting up limping. He was hurt. He was hurt real bad, I think. I don't think he should have played. He wasn't ready before the game, and then he said, okay, I'm going to play. And I think after that second hit, he was done. And if Arizona get a defense, Lakina, people going to be scared to play Arizona. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Get maybe another front 7 guy or two, and they'll be the Kings in that NFC West. They'll be, at least they'll be right there with the Rams and the Seahawks.
The last of the key early games, the Tennessee Titans defeat the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-10. Shout out to our friend of the show, Spiro Ditas of CBS. He called that game yesterday. The Titans were another team that were dominant from start to finish. Of course, they had the embarrassing loss at home against Cleveland last week. They showed up on Sunday against division rival Jacksonville. Ryan Tannehill, 212 yards and 2 touchdown passes, including a beautiful strike to A.J. Brown in the first quarter. What a catch by him. King Derrick Henry did his thing, 26 carries, 215 yards, and 2 touchdown scores. And A.J. Brown, speaking of A.J. Brown, he had 7 receptions and 112 yards to go along with that touchdown catch in the first quarter. Lakina, is Tennessee back to being not just a playoff contender, but maybe perhaps a Super Bowl contender?
Look, I think playing Jacksonville will always, cure what ails you, I guess. So, look, the Titans looked really good yesterday. Is it a mirage, since they were playing the Jags? We've seen what this team can do. So, I think they'll make some noise in the AFC. So, but I think they're right there. They're kind of right there, like that second tier. So, look, Derrick Henry showed you why that maybe he should get the MVP. He's in consideration for MVP. A.J. Brown, look, if you guys have never heard of this kid's really good, one of the top wide receivers in the league. The defense, they're opportunistic. We've talked about them. They did just enough to kind of slow down the Jags. So I think the Titans are kind of right there in that second tier like they were last year.
Yep, and being right there makes them dangerous. I wouldn't say that they're ready to take the whole thing, but I wouldn't want to play them. Like, if I could avoid them, I would, especially early in the playoffs, because I don't, and then as this weather gets worse, depending on where these playoff games are going to be played at, they can make them even more dangerous. If it's 20 degrees where the game played at, it's hard trying to tackle that man in 20-degree weather. I think his stats go up like 10 or 20% when the weather's 20 degrees or lower. So I wouldn't want to play him in a bad stadium in the wintertime.
All right, let's take a look back at some of the key late games from Sunday's Week 14 action. We'll start with Lamont's other favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. They dropped to 10-3, losing to the Philadelphia Eagles 24-21.
Come on, Lamont.
Look, I watched the game, and shout out, and when we get to our congratulations and stuff, you'll hear more about this game. Wasn't ready. Said they was ready all week. Said they was prepared for him because they had enough time, but they was not ready for Jalen Hurts. Bottom line, they thought that they can do what they did the previous couple of weeks, ride the hot hand. They don't need Breeze. They can make it through. So they didn't prepare properly for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts outrushed Dalvin Cook this week. So that lets you know right there that you should have been preparing more for Jalen Hurts. Plus, he know how to throw the ball a little bit. And they even admitted that going into the game. Well, we have to pay attention to his arm also. They didn't pay attention to that neither. And I think that they thought that they could continue to just ride the whole, we can run, we can tip, we can Kamara can carry us. But if that team doesn't get a real backup quarterback, they could be in trouble going forward. And if 10 cracked ribs don't heal properly, they definitely could be in trouble. And I think you say that next game is against Kansas City?
Yep.
They could get real ugly if he's not ready to go. But Philly played a good game. Alshon, where he been all year, decided to show up. So yeah, it was a win by Philadelphia. They can, like I say, all they could say was they wasn't ready. I think they overlooked it and they wasn't ready.
I did watch the majority of this game in its entirety via my computer. For those of you that are listening to us in the Chicagoland area, you guys were forced to watch the Green Bay-Detroit game, which we will review in just a second. Lamont just stole all my talking points. Philadelphia was ready in that first half, leading 17-0 at the half. Of course, the Saints came back with 14 third-quarter points, but the Eagles had just enough to win. Jalen Hurts was amazing. As you say, Lamont, all the time, coach your team and not your scheme. Yep. That was kind of the opposite to an extent for Philadelphia on Sunday. They played to Jalen Hurts what he could do best, what he could he not do. And like you said, Lamont, he outrushed Dalvin Cook. Jalen Hurts had 106 yards off of 18 carries, but he had a touchdown pass to Alshon Jeffrey early in the first quarter, but it ended up with 167 passing yards on the day. Miles Sanders, who was the key, I believe, to Philadelphia's victory on Sunday, had 14 carries for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns.
You guys stole all my my notes here.
My bad.
Great minds, though. But no worries. Great minds to collect. I mean, Miles Sanders. I mean, where's he been all season? Come on, Doug Peterson. Why aren't you using this guy more? Also, Jalen Hurts rushed for 100 yards as well. 106 yards to be exact. I mean, he did have that fumble that kept the Saints in it, but thankfully their defense, who had 5 sacks, was able to kind of stave off that comeback there for the Saints. I think they might have gotten caught looking ahead a little bit. Maybe they saw that, they're having problems with their quarterback and everything, and the Saints probably might have gotten caught looking ahead to that Chiefs game next week. So I'm thinking maybe they probably got caught with their pants down, sort of, kind of. And, I think Jalen Hurts said, hello, I'm here, and I'm not relinquishing this. So they just announced that he's going to be the quarterback again this week for them. So could be some things brewing in Philly.
Another quarterback we passed on, right? I'm just saying.
Speaking of another stud quarterback, the Green Bay Packers are keeping up with the Saints for that top spot of the NFC playoff picture. They defeated the Detroit Lions 31-24 on the road. The Packers are now 10-3. Aaron Rodgers had 290 yards passing, including 3 touchdowns. Running back Aaron Jones had 15 carries for 69 yards. Devontae Adams had a well of a game, 7 receptions, 115 yards, including a beautiful catch and run for a touchdown in that first half. Green Bay looks like they're on a roll. As I mentioned, they're in lock and step with the New Orleans Saints. They actually own the tiebreaker with the Saints as far as the number 1 seed is concerned, because they defeated the Saints on Sunday Night Football earlier in the season. So the Packers are looking like they're primed for another playoff run. But as I mentioned before, going against physical teams, they seem to crumble. But yesterday, it was a division game against the Lions. They kind of had to struggle a little bit to come out of Detroit with that victory, but they got done what they need to get done, which was a key division victory.
Also, like you said, these NFC North games, you always sort of scrimp and scratch and claw your way, and that's what they did. That's what they did. I mean, that's how their earlier season matchup was. So I didn't expect anything different. The Lions will always give you a fight. So, and the Packers, they just know to win that game. So they clinched in the North, once again for the 2nd straight year. And look, I mean, I think they're showing you that they can't keep up with the physical teams, because that was their problem last year. They ran to a physical team and just crumbled. But I think you're starting to see that fight. I think you can see that it might be different this time depending on the matchups are. But I think they're showing you that they can't keep up with the physicality of some of these teams.
Well, I can't really compare their physicality when they're playing a team in the North, because all the North games are just the same, except when you play the Bears. When they play the Bears, it's not like that. But when they play Minnesota and Detroit, it's physical and stuff. And all of the North is physical, except when the Bears play the Packers. But as far as those other teams that will get physical with them, I don't know. I mean, I think Green Bay is riding a wave of disrespect. I think Aaron Rodgers feel like he's the most disrespected man in football. 1, because they only talk about Pat Mahomes. 2, because management drafted a quarterback with the number 1 pick. So I think he felt like, I got something to prove. I'm still the man. I'm still, to quote that man on that other channel, I'm a bad man. So I think you want to let them know that.
Another late game from Sunday. The Washington football team now the leaders in the clubhouse in the NFC East after taking advantage of the New York Giants losing early in the day to the Arizona Cardinals. Washington defeats the San Francisco 49ers 23-15. The Washington football team's defense, as we told you all season long, one of the best underrated units in football, at least their front line. Their secondary got it done, taking advantage of 2 49ers turnovers and returning them both for touchdowns. Running back J.D. McKissick for Washington had 11 carries for 68 yards. Alex Smith went out with an injury. I did see some of that game live via my computer. He went out late. Dwayne Haskins came in relief. Now, Washington, as I mentioned, is in the leader in the clubhouse as far as the NFC East division is concerned. They have a tough game next week at home against Seattle. Lakina, I'll start with you. If Alex Smith is out for next week or after next week, even though Washington has battled back to respectability this season, Washington, they could be in trouble once again.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we saw early in the season with Dwayne Haskins. That's why Coach Rivera made the switch. So they've got the Seahawks, they're the Panthers, and they finish up with the Eagles. So if hopefully you're hoping that Alex Smith's calf isn't going to be an issue. It looks like it's not serious, but it's you should be a little bit nervous if you're a Washington fan right now. But look, they've done. They've done enough to kind of be right there, to be in contention for the NFC East, which doesn't take much. But, this is a team that they could have just, walked away in the field position and just said forget the rest of the season. But they didn't. They took the personality of their coach, and who we know very well here, and they've been able to kind of get right there in the position. It's like you hope that. And Smith was able to come back from that horrible leg injury. You hope that his calf was on his other leg, mind you. It's not that leg. So you hope it's not very serious, and that he'll be able to play.
And I think they're already saying that Haskins is the quarterback, so it's gonna be ugly for him. But it's one thing that's gonna keep them fighting, and it's them 3 number 1 picks, and we'll get to those when we get to our studs and duds later. But they got something secret in Washington, and Washington only missing one thing, really. Well, 1.5 things. So if they find a way to get that 1.5 things straight, I think Washington gonna be something to deal with. They're gonna earn a name for that team. They're gonna be called the Washington Winners in a minute. Keep it up. Keep playing with them. They're gonna be called the Washington Winners in a minute. So
a couple other games to review quickly from Week 14. The Seattle Seahawks get back on track. They are now 9-4. They defeat the New York Jets, who are now 0-13, 40-3. Russell Wilson with 4 touchdown passes. DK Metcalf gets back in the end zone with 61 yards receiving and a touchdown. The Indianapolis Colts might have sealed the fate for the Las Vegas Raiders as they defeated the Raiders 44-27 on the road. Jonathan Taylor for Indianapolis had 20 carries for 150 yards, including 2 touchdowns. And, of course, who's number 23, Lakina, for the Colts? He had a great one-handed interception. That was just sweet.
I gotta look him up, but I think that's Leonard, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll look it up.
Yeah, so Indianapolis takes care of business. They're 2 games up now on the Raiders for their last wild card spot. And, of course, from Sunday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers, after starting off the year 11-0, they now have lost their last 2 games. They drop another one, this time to the Buffalo Bills by the score of 26-15, making 2 wins in a row for the Buffalo Bills over the Pittsburgh Steelers in prime time on Sunday Night Football. Josh Allen, 2 touchdown passes, all for 238 yards passing. Zach Moss for Buffalo had 43 yards rushing. Stephon Diggs had a big game for Buffalo with 10 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. Lamont, I'll start with you. Do you consider Buffalo Bills a real threat come playoff time?
Especially if they play in Buffalo, yeah. I didn't catch y'all's picks Friday. Did everybody pick Buffalo?
Yep.
That's smart. Whoever has to go play Buffalo, and if it's in Buffalo, it's gonna be a problem. And I don't really care who it is. That defense is starting to play much, 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 much better. And that was really the only problem, because Stephon Diggs gonna do his thing. If they use that running back like they should use him more, I mean, it'll be better. I'm a super fan of Mr. Beasley, so I kind of believe in Buffalo. And those uniforms they wore, one of the best in the league. I love the all red.
Oh, you like their red uniforms?
The all red, yeah. I prefer the all red too, actually.
Yeah.
I rock with the all red.
I love it.
I was with them all the way, and I like my Pittsburgh because I love the coach. But Pittsburgh seemed to want to fall back to the pack, and now I don't know what the rest of I think they don't play. Do they play Cleveland again?
Who, Pittsburgh? I'll check, but I think they do.
I think they do too.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be a loss.
End of the season.
That's going to be to decide that division, and I think they might lose it. And I can't wait to pick that game. You know, just like when y'all was on that Jets game before that. The rest of their season gonna be interesting too. But as far as Buffalo, I think Buffalo's a real deal. I mean, they real.
Just to clean it up, Kenny Moore II had that great one-handed interception for the Colts last night in that game against the Raiders. Now, as far as the Bills-Steelers, I mean, that was kind of I'm glad it kind of, it kind of kicked into gear because the first quarter and a half, it was kind of boring. It was like, okay, no one's there. I think they were kind of like feeling each other out. So, I think that's probably what it was.
It was a heavyweight fight. It was a heavyweight fight. It was like, you throw it right, I'm going to throw it right. I'm going to counter with a left, you counter with a right. That's what it was. It was a good fight. Like, I'm lucky I had 2 TVs on because I was watching something else at the same time. But, it was a good fight.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they use the running backs more because they have a couple of pretty good running backs. But also, look, Stephon Diggs, did his thing at 130 yards, a touchdown catch. So I think that kind of helped. I mean, Josh Allen didn't make too many. He had an interception early in the game, but he kind of, sort of settled down and, kind of, chugged his way through and kind of helped the Bills sort of offense start scoring points. Also, the defense. I mean, they were just, just incredible, that defense. You got Tremaine Edmonds had a couple of tackles. Also, Jordan Pryor led with 6 solo tackles. So, Look, I'm not going to say that the Bills are a team to beat, but I think they're sort of saying, hey, you know what? Don't forget about us.
Yeah, let it be a storm in Buffalo come January. I bet you don't nobody want to go over there and play them. Nobody.
Especially with no fans.
Exactly.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakina McGee and Lamont Scott. I am Sydney Brown. I'll turn it over to you, Lakina, as we now get to our studs and duds for week number 14.
Yay, studs. We'll keep up with this game. The Bills, they're one of my studs. I mean, look, Josh Allen, a couple of touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, I talked about him. I talked about the defense. Like I said, I mean, to me, I think they're right there as the best team in the AFC. They clinched the AFC East, which means that the Patriots are now eliminated from playoff contention. So, this will probably definitely the end of an era there. Who else? I mean, Green Bay. We talked about Green Bay. I mean, they had a great showing. I mean, look, they did just enough to win against a rivalry game. And a couple more. Arizona, we talked about them earlier. The defense, Hassan Reddick. I mean, he was great. Dennis Gedrick, they were both great. I mean, just a great showing by that Cardinals defense. Definitely the best of the season. So those are my 3 studs.
Okay. Well, one of them you took. I was gonna go with Arizona. Because Arizona looked like if they get a defense, they could be super good. The other 2 are individual players. One, Cole Kmet, because has he missed a lot of balls or have they just not thrown him some balls? Because the highlights I saw, it looked like when he get the ball, he know what to do. And if that is the case, now I'm back mad at Matt Nagy. Because how have you had this man all year and not used him?
That's called coaching.
And my last one is Chase Young. Did you see how fast he is?
Yeah.
How dominant he is. Chase Young is going to be everything. He's not going to be, and I'm not knocking the gentleman. I think he plays with Tennessee now. I'm not knocking him now, but he had went to Seattle. He was a top pick. He had a great hit in college. I'm not going to knock the brother because I thought, he was going to be everything that I'm seeing in Chase Young that I hadn't seen in him when he came out. But Chase Young is actually showing me everything that I thought he would show me when he came out. So
I think you're talking about Jadeveon Clowney, right, Lamont?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
He's gone for the year for the Titans because of injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I thought Chase Young might turn into that, but he's showing you that, no, I got some talent over here, player. So shout out to Chase Young, man.
The guys are freak. The guy's a freak. Just insane.
Yeah.
My three studs quickly. Tyreek Hill from Kansas City. Hassan Reddick, 5 sacks for the Arizona Cardinals. and Derrick Derrick Henry from the Tennessee Titans with 215 yards and 2 touchdowns.
No surprises there. So on the other side of the coin, the duds. I have a kicker, Dan Bailey. Why do you still have a job? I don't know. I mean, they're gonna need you if they want to make the playoffs. If they want to make a push for the playoffs, they're gonna need you to make these kicks. I don't know if it's mental. Weather wasn't a problem. There was no wind. You were playing in Tampa, so it wasn't snowing or rain or anything like that. So, dude, come on. Another dud. And sorry, Lamont's the Saints. You got caught looking ahead to Kansas City. He gave up a lot of sacks. Taysom Hill, was running for his life. The Eagles played their best game this season. The Eagles, my bonus stud, by the way. But sorry, New Orleans, you get a dud from me. And also, I'm going to go outside the box here with my last dud. All the pundits in Chicago, slow your roll when you say that the Bears made the right choice by picking Trubisky over Watson. It's only one game. Yes, I know the stats. It's just annoying that people are saying, "Oh, look, Trubisky outdoing Watson." He had nobody, Watson. Watson didn't have anybody. You guys could have done a better job. Could have done a good job against that trash Texas defense. Come on. So those are my 3 duds. Carry on, guys.
I'm gonna be with you and jump on the bandwagon because great minds think alike. The New Orleans Saints, yes, y'all have some duds this week. How could you? You don't want to be number 1 if you lose like that. To a rookie, y'all supposed to be better than that. Next, Pittsburgh. Y'all just went on break. What y'all on a 3-week hiatus? I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
When last time Pittsburgh played a good game against Baltimore, and they barely won that one. So yeah, Pittsburgh. And last, I gotta give a stud. And I know Lakina, you just said he didn't have nobody to throw to, but I was counting on Deshaun Watson to embarrass Mitchell Trubisky and the Houston embarrass the Bears. I needed him to come in here and show them why and how incompetent they are. And I begged, I was like, come on, Deshaun. Okay, throw it to me. Throw it to anybody, and you'll beat them. And it just didn't happen. So Houston and him get my last one, but I was counting on him to just run Nagy, Pace, Trubisky. I was counting on him to run them all out of town. And I heard the announcer during the Bears game mention a comment about, Mitchell Trubisky, no disrespect, going to make a great backup quarterback one day. Anytime an announcer says that about you, that's a telltale sign to your management.
Kevin. Yeah, I remember. I heard him, Kevin Harlan, say that. I'm like, he did it in such a very respectful way too.
Yeah, he was.
You guys stole all my duds. I'll just nail mine down to one, and that's the New York Football Giants. You had a chance to take control of the NFC East by you losing and by Washington winning on the road. Now you are in second place, and guess who's game behind you, New York Football Giants, in second place? The Dallas Cowboys, who had a big win at Cincinnati on Sunday. So I'm giving my dud to the New York Giants.
You can't really call a win against Cincinnati big, though. They were supposed to be Cincinnati. Cincinnati don't got nobody or a quarterback. So, yeah, they better have one.
That's true. That is true. That is very true. So we're going to take a really quick break. Still got a lot to talk about, too. You got NBA preseason. The Bulls played a couple of games over the weekend. Also, Kevin Durant makes his return. Also, Steph Curry makes his return. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, college football, some big changes ahead. Also, college hoops perhaps be postponed. So we got a lot of stuff to do and to talk about still. So we'll be right back with more Second City Sports Zoom style.
Zoom style.
And welcome back to hour 2 or segment 2, however you want to say it, of Second City Sports Zoom style.
Zoom style.
Once again, I'm Lakina McGee, and you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
And I'm Lamont Scott. You can follow me on Lamont Scott on Facebook, Lamont Scott 69 on Instagram, and Lamont Scott 16 on Twitter.
I'm Sidney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. You can go to our website at www.weareregalradio.com. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. And you can catch this podcast, Second City Sports, along with the other podcast programming from War Media by simply searching for War or Anchor. Wherever you download your podcasts, including the iHeartRadio app, make sure you type in that search engine box, War on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor. We're also on the Tube, a.k.a. YouTube, at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. Like, comment, share, subscribe. You can not only listen to us, but watch us do our thing live. Look alive!
All right, make sure you like and subscribe on the YouTube page, and also share too and tell your friends. Now let's do a little NBA preseason, kind of get that out the way, you guys. We'll start with the Bulls, of course. The Bulls.
Go Bulls, go!
All right,
Go Bulls, go!
They split
All right, that's enough, Lamont.
they split their mini two-game series with the Rockets. They got their butts kicked on Friday, losing by 28, but they actually bounced back last night and had a nice win against them. This is a new system, got a new coaching staff. So if you guys got a chance to watch, what has impressed you, or what impressions have you gotten so far from these first two preseason games for the Bulls?
Kobe White is, I want him to see, as I said before, these last couple of weeks, I want him to see if he's going to become that complete player that Billy Donovan wants in his point guard. Of course, we all know that White is a great scorer. He can catch and shoot. He can create his own shot as well. But watching those two preseason games over the weekend against the Rockets, every time he drove into the lane, he would lose the ball. I want him to take care of the ball better, and I also want him to see if he can become that complete player as far as being a playmaker is concerned. I know, Lamont, we talked about that as well now with Chicago's very young Hall of Famer assistant coach Maurice Cheeks on Billy Donovan's staff now. So I want to see how Kobe White can improve in that department. Zach LaVine, he's a scorer, so we know we're going to get from him. Lauri Markkanen, I know he got nicked up in Sunday night's preseason game. Hopefully he can stay healthy. You would like to see him take that next step offensively, but defensively, he cannot play defense. No one can play defense in that middle for the Chicago Bulls other than Daniel Gafford. We saw last season some signs that he could be that defensive stopper. He led the NBA rookies in block shots last year. I actually liked what I saw from Daniel Gafford on Sunday night. He played 12 minutes and grabbed 4 total rebounds. He had 2 block shots in there as well. So I like what I see from him. Patrick Williams, the rookie small forward out of Florida State. I like the potential in him. It's going to take him some time. I think he can improve better on his game on the offensive end, but I like what he does defensively. So you can't complain too much about him right there. So there's some overall signs that the Bulls can be a decent team, but it's going to be a long process, guys. So I just say brace this long, crazy, sometimes even frustrating ride, but I think it's going to pay off in the long run.
I think that Kobe White will become that point guard simply because of the Maurice Cheeks factor. If you look at the way he passed the ball from the first game to the second game, and I think each game will get better as far as his distributing the ball. We know he can score. We know all that. Well, I think the Bulls' problem come in, as they'll see it, as you mentioned it also. The Bulls have a conundrum where Daniel Gafford needs to start at center. But if that happens, that means 1 or 2 people have to go to the bench. Who do you put on the bench, Markkanen or Carter? Both of them are power forwards. Markkanen is not a center. So Carter is not a center. So I think with Markkanen being nicked up, I think if they run that team out there with Carter, Gafford at the front, and Markkanen hurt, so he have to come off the bench, will work out better for him going forward in these next couple of preseason games. But they need that center. Gafford is that center that we have on the staff, because it's definitely not Felicio or Cornette. So we know it's not them. And the thing with that is that they need to stop playing Wendell Carter out of position. He's a power forward. I don't know why do they continue to try to make this man a center. He's not a center, and they keep doing it. But as far as Kobe White, I think his passing will get better. And then with him having a direct contact with Chris Paul, I think that's going to help him out a lot too as far as his passing game goes. So, I mean, I look for him to keep going.
Another person I thought that was very impressive was Patrick Williams, the rookie from Florida State. He had some big shots. He had 12 in the first game. He had 13 last night. He looked really good. I'm a little worried about Marketing. Even before he got nicked up, he was having his struggles, especially on Friday. He struggled a bit, in those last, few games before everything had to shut down. So I'm a little bit worried. I mean, is it lack of desire? Is it the fact that he feels like it's within? He just doesn't have the confidence. I don't know. That's something to look out for. Look, I'm with you on Wendell Carter Jr. Lamont. I mean, he is not a center. He never has been. He's more of a power forward. So I wish they would. He's totally playing out of position. So I wish they would put him at power forward. Look, Zach LaVine, is going to do his thing, so I'm not worried about him. Kobe White, I think, like you said, Lamont, having Mo Cheeks there to kind of help him, because I think his game and both their games, his game was very similar to Kobe, so I'm thinking that maybe he can kind of help him out a little bit, not be so careless with the ball, be able to not afraid to take shots. So I like what I saw, last night, I should say. So I think like we've been saying, I think Bulls fans should kind of pace themselves on their expectations. If they could get to like right there, like in the cusp of playing that play-in game for the playoffs, however they're gonna do it, you're feeling satisfied. But we also said too, I think Arturis and also Mark Eversley, they're trying to see okay, who can fit and who can they build a team around. I think this is sort of like a 1-year tryout, if you will, for a lot of these guys.
But something else you mentioned, Lakina, Patrick Williams, not disappointed in his pick at all anymore. He showed me he has the NBA body, and he's not afraid to score on offense. He got a pretty little jump shot too, and he'll get you a rebound. So we might have made a good move with him, but I think their problem will be that marketing situation with that. But even if marketing is not ready, we still got Thad Young on the bench. He can bag up Wendell Carter at power forward and let Gafford continue to play center. So I think that coaching staff is finally smart enough to realize some of these things, and we might see it happen.
Also, another player that I want to point out for the Bulls is Otto Porter Jr. Ever since he was traded here over a year and a half ago, he's missed a lot of games due to various injuries, but he had a pretty good game in 24 minutes of action on Sunday night, going 5 of 8, scoring 12 points in 24 minutes of action. If Otto Porter Jr. can stay healthy, he can really bring some additional scoring to that small forward spot.
If he can stay healthy, man, that's his job. Just stay healthy, man. That's like something he hasn't been. But we got a whole new training staff this year up there, so he should stay. If he can stay healthy, still, he can score if he can stay healthy. I think before he got hurt the first time, he was leading the league in 3-point percentages. So if he stay healthy, though, the man just seemed to, not stay healthy.
He's also playing for a contract too. Remember that, guys. So he's sort of like, I wouldn't expect him to kind of just sort of try his best to play well this season so he can get that new money.
he ain't played out that old money yet.
That is very true. That is very true. That is very true. So, yeah. So I like we were saying, I think Bulls fans should sort of temper their expectations. They will play the Thunder on Wednesday. That will be the last preseason game. Remember, remember the preseason is very limited, so you're not gonna. I don't think Billy Donovan and the rest of the Bulls staff is not going to be able to kind of make any assumptions with only 3 preseason games. But it's a sort of a nice little sort of, groundwork. We'll see what happens. Let's talk about the NBA as a whole right quick. Did you guys get a chance to see any other preseason games? If so, what are your thoughts?
Of course, I watched one preseason game for sure. The Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings. I watched that. And Chris Paul didn't play. He's playing tonight. But he didn't play in the first game. And that's what they're missing. They don't have no one that can create his own shot other than Devin Booker. So that's what they're missing. I was happy to see that Marlon Cousin is the first one off the bench. He is DeAndre Ayton's replacement. Whenever Ayton needs a spell, he's the man to go in the game. They don't have nobody else behind him or in front of him. So that was a good thing to see. And I also watched the Charlotte game. LaMelo Ball. Which one is he? He LaMelo. Which one is he?
Yep.
This LaMelo.
He's LaMelo. He better than Lonzo already.
I don't know.
That's not setting the bar very high. That's not setting the bar very high.
I'm just saying, after one preseason game, I think he's going to be better than his brother. And he didn't score. He didn't try to score. But the man had like 10 rebounds, 5 assists, couple of blocks. The way he rebound for a guard and the things he do with the ball when he's bringing the ball up court, the way he run that ball up court, it's been a while. It's been a while since I seen a point guard run the ball, pass the ball with accuracy. We talking Mark Jackson is like passing from him in his first game. But the way he cares about rebounding and defense, I think they grew him up with learn how to shoot can come. You can always learn how to shoot. Michael Jordan couldn't shoot. So when he hit the Bulls, he couldn't shoot. So you can always learn to shoot. But the other stuff that he has, you can't teach. Like, that stuff is in him. And the way he gets that rebound and push that ball and get it to the right person all the time, that's going to be something to watch. Like, I'm literally going to catch every Charlotte game I can just to see him play. And I never thought that about his brother. Not one time.
The Brooklyn Nets, they look good so far. Of course, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are both back. Hopefully, Kyrie earlier today spoke to the media, so I'm sure he's tired of the league taking $25K out his bank account and off his paper check. Kevin Durant looks good. He had a good baseline dunk in Sunday night's win against Washington. The Pistons look good so far. They beat the Knicks. On the other side for the Knicks, their rookie from Dayton, he looks pretty good. Obi and R.J. Barrett, the second year, their draft pick, their sophomore, he looked good. He had 25 points in their win in their loss on Sunday at Detroit. So Tom Thibodeau, he has some work to do, but he has some nice young pieces to work with. Of course, the Lakers and the Clippers split their weekend series, and I watched a little bit of this game, the Friday's version of the Sacramento-Portland game. Dame Dollar, as the kids will call him, Damian Lillard, looks like he's in mid-season form already. He hit a couple of half-court logo shots.
You see that one
he's ready to go. Yeah.
See that one go from the side. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
And also Carmelo Anthony looked good, too, on Friday.
Yes, he did. Carmelo looked nice.
Yeah. Look, those Clippers Lakers games were a lot of fun to watch. I mean, Taylor Horton Tucker. I mean, look, this is a kid from Iowa State, so I've been a fan of his for the last couple of years, and I kind of see, this is sort of in a new system playing with the reigning champions. I think that'll help him kind of give him a fresh start to his game. And yeah, look, he had a nice showing there too. I mean, I liked what I saw from Brooklyn. Portland looked really good, even though they lost to Sacramento. I mean, I think it's a little bit too early to say. I mean, let's remember, a lot of these teams have not played in months, and some of these players who opted not to play in the bubble haven't played in months. So I think people need to kind of be a little bit more forgiving as to, what are they expecting from these teams. They got to give them a couple of weeks to kind of get back into playing shape.
Hey, Lakena, if I looked at the Rockets, right?
Uh-huh.
If the Rockets, the way John Wall moving, if the Rockets were to move Harden for like a Tobias Harris type, if they moved him for a real scoring small forward, they really wouldn't miss him because Cousins looked like he ready to prove himself, and John Wall looked better than he was.
Yeah. I mean, look, he hasn't played in like 3 years, John Wall. Yeah. So he's looking at
2 years. Yeah, he looked great over the weekend.
If they can get a small forward that scored for Harden and some draft picks, man, because him and Wall ain't gonna work together. You can see that already. That is not gonna happen.
He already said that supposedly he wants a trade. So yeah.
It's not gonna happen, man. Because Wall looked like he ready to lead him a team, and maybe we can send them marketing for Harden. I don't know. We need something else. We'll take Wall, let Harden stay. I don't know, but I don't think them play together. And if Brooklyn stay healthy, Brooklyn gonna be a problem.
And also, too, real quick before we move on, you guys mentioned John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. It was nice to see both of those guys back. Steph Curry for the Golden State Warriors. It was nice to see him get back on the court as well. And their new addition, Kelly Oubre Jr., former Washington Wizards player and a Phoenix Suns star. It was nice to see him in a uniform playing again, too. Now, Kelly Oubre, it looks like hopefully if the Warriors stay healthy, he's going to be on another playoff team once again for the first time in a couple years.
Yeah, and they started him.
He'll be Klay Thompson's replacement for this year.
They started him and Wiggins together. So, I mean, they might have enough with if Wiseman can play defense like they say he can and up there with Draymond. I mean, I'm never counting Steph Curry out. Really, with or without Klay. I'm never counting Steph out because Steph will put 100 on you and the rest will only score 20. Win. So, I'm never counting that man out. But, I'll be watching tonight. I'll be taping and watching tonight. Hopefully Chris Paul play tonight and, get to see what's going on. Oh, guess who else plays on that Phoenix team? Sidebar. Dancing Machine is their backup point guard. Campaign.
Talk about something totally random. My goodness.
Yeah, I thought he was out the league.
When I seen him, I was like, hey, that's Michael Jackson. That's Dancing Machine. You know Campaign.
Dancing Machine.
What did he do for the Bulls? He would dance around the whole time and then miss the shot. Come on, man. That's Dancing Machine.
Keeping up with the dancing theme here. College football. Let's go to the college gridiron now, guys. They're finishing up their regular season. A lot of teams have said that they're not going to play in their bowl game. Oh, well, let's talk about the stuff on the field first. I mean, USC looked, that USC UCLA game was really good. That's probably one of the best, games from that rivalry in a couple of years. But, USC, the Cardiac Trojans pulled it out. Let's see what else. Coastal Carolina stayed undefeated, so they're trying to kind of keep pace with Cincy for that +1 slot for the New Year's Six Bowls. Yes, Lamont, Illinois didn't look really good against Northwestern, and
not the Illinois tweet, the other tweet, the LSU one.
Oh yeah, of course, LSU. Of course, now they play their best game of the season, upset Florida. I mean,
but you know why though, right? They got a quarterback. That's been their problem. They never had a quarterback. It's Brad Johnson's son.
Yeah, I know who that. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so funny that a quarterback really made that much of a difference in the team.
Oh. I guess so. I mean, look, he looked really good. I mean, he didn't make any big mistakes, and threw for 3 touchdowns. Max, that's his name for those of you who are wondering. Brad Johnson.
Everybody else showed up. The defense decided to show up. I'm like, what? Y'all wait to try to eliminate them? See, that's that SEC stuff, man. That's that SEC stuff right there. Now Florida at home with their stomach hurting. They sick. Thought they was looking for Bama. Now they scared to go play Bama, so it don't matter.
Oh.
But,
Northwestern defeated Illinois on Saturday, 28-10. Of course, which our good guy Lovie Smith now sending with his walking papers with his pink slip and link card. Yep. Illinois gave up almost 300 yards in rushing, and Northwestern had 2 guys rush for over 100 yards, and it was a mess weather-wise, but Northwestern had enough offense to get it done. And now Northwestern will have to face an angry but overall very talented Ohio State team next Saturday afternoon for the Big Ten title game in Indianapolis.
Oh boy, this should be. Oh.
Do you think even though Ohio State only played like 5 games, they should be in the playoffs? Like some of these teams that then played 11.
Well, we told you they changed the rule. So you were with us, Lamont, but they changed the rule.
We told you they would do it, but do you think it's fair? You think it's fair?
I mean, is it fair? Not necessarily, but you kind of figured that this was going to happen. So
yeah, I know it was going to happen.
But, I'm not. Look, I know a lot of Indiana fans are upset about it. I know the players. I saw some of the players. I saw some of them tweeting that they were upset about it. But
they wouldn't get.
If you're Fox, would you rather have Northwestern versus Ohio State or Northwestern versus Indiana? I think you'll take the former. Just saying.
And plus, you didn't have Michigan and Ohio State this year because Michigan had a date with COVID. So if you're Fox, as we mentioned in our last podcast, Lakina, you're trying to have the highest rated games as possible on your network since you didn't get Michigan, Ohio State this year.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what happened to Miami, Lakina?
No, that's it. That's it. That's it. I didn't say anything.
They got smacked around big time.
Oh my God! I mean, but you know what though? Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, that tandem for North Carolina, that running back tandem, they're really good. They're really good. Over 300 yards for Carter. I think he's like the first to do it in the ACC in like 30 years, maybe a little give or take. So he's really good.
Yeah. That's why I asked you, so I knew Sid would answer. That's why I asked him.
Yes, and what happened? I was shocked when I saw the score. I'm like,
me too.
What the heck happened? Like, did their defense decide not to show? What happened, Sid?
You just basically took the words right out of my mouth. So they didn't show up. Maybe they overlooked North Carolina. I don't know, but they just weren't there. They were like the New York Football Giants. They were there physically, but emotionally, they didn't have.
Like Arizona.
Arizona. Yeah, they got 70-7. They lost to Herm Edwards, and Kevin Sumlin is now out.
Yeah, he got his pink slip too.
Yeah, got his pink slip too, and link card. So, what do you guys think? Are you guys? What you say?
A lot of pink slips and link cards going out, not only in there but in pro football too. I see they had made some changes in Vegas this morning. So yeah, it's pink slips going out everywhere. But while you still on college football, shout out again to Miss Vanderbilt. If she didn't win Woman of the Year at Vanderbilt, she should. Miss Sarah scored a point. I'm so happy to see her kicking the ball and scoring points because I've met a few women in my time that look like football players and play like football players. So I'm so happy she continued to score points and may she continue to be a trailblazer for all little girls in the world.
I love Sarah. I love the teammates' reaction. Sarah Fuller, that's her name. That's who I'm not talking about. I love their reaction towards her. I mean, it was really nice to see. And, like she wants to be kind of like the trailblazer. She wants to be that, sort of the inspiration for girls everywhere. And I think she'll do just that.
Yeah. I mean, because women, I mean, it took me a long time to come to the conclusion. I ain't gonna lie. I was a tough guy. But y'all do a lot of stuff really well, like really, really well. Like even with wrestling, I rarely watch men wrestling now. I only watch it to watch the women wrestle because they actually got more. And even with the WNBA, a lot of the plays that the WNBA run, the NBA refused to run. They run in 3, 4, 5 woman weaves, and the NBA run 101 ISO. So yeah, I mean, women, they doing their thing.
Absolutely. And oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just to wrap up with college football, another team that got surprised, the number 21 ranked Colorado Buffaloes, they lost at home to Utah, 38-21. Utah, of course, last year they were on the doorstep of perhaps sneaking into the college football playoff. They had their struggles this year. They're now 2-2 on the season. They, as I mentioned, they beat Colorado by 17.
Although Brendan Rice, if you know who his
Yes,
dad is,
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Mr. Rice,
he looked really good. Yeah.
he looked extremely good.
Chip
Mm-hmm.
off the old block. That's Jerry Rice's oldest son. That's what you're talking about.
Did
But
they look like they were gonna catch him? They look like they couldn't catch him. Like, he looked like he might have a future.
absolutely. Also, to sync with the Pac-12, it won't be Washington versus USC for the Pac-12 title. It'll actually be Oregon versus USC because Washington's having COVID issues the last couple of weeks, and they're not going to be able to fill the team. So now it'll be Oregon against USC for the Pac-12 championship on Friday, I believe.
And while you talking COVID and filling teams, that's another reason Florida shouldn't have lost. LSU only filled half a team to go play them. Like, Florida really just wet the bed, like, really bad. Like, maybe they was waiting on Bama. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, but now they can't go to the playoff now, unfortunately, if they had beaten Bama.
Yeah. It's rough everywhere. Look at Lovey. Maybe he headed back to the Bears. Who knows?
Oh, let's not start that, please.
Oh, don't give him no ideas. No.
Let's not start that. Let's not start that. Go ahead, Sid. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say Auburn's coach got the pink slip too.
Gus Malzahn, yeah, but he
Yep.
got a nice little buyout too, 21.75 million. So
Yeah, who needs a link card? Just give me that
Right.
buyout
link
check.
card here, yeah. No need for a link card here.
I want my link card. If you're giving me that much money, please, can I have my link card?
Oh my goodness. I mean, oh my God. Look, were you guys surprised by that one? I was somewhat shocked by that one. I'm not. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah, I was.
Well, Lamont, that's SEC country. Were you surprised?
Not only surprised, but I think a lot of changes are happening in the SEC because of this COVID. Meaning they can't get out and recruit the way they want to. So they can't get out and get the people they want to. And a lot of people can't do the things that they do to get the players that they get. So I think a lot of that comes into play, especially when you're talking that SEC situation. So you can't get out and do your normal job. And that happens. And a lot of people lose their job because of it.
Lakina, we talked about this on Friday. LSU has a self-imposed 1-year ban. Lamont, I want to ask you about that.
The smartest thing they could have did. You know why? They knew
Why?
they wasn't going nowhere. They knew they couldn't get to a bowl game. So yeah, we gonna ban ourselves to keep y'all from banning us. So that way we look like we the good guys when they covering up something the whole time. So that was one of them whole, let me throw you the left hand so I can hit you with the right hand. So yeah, that was, and you see how quick it came out, like, oh yeah, we're gonna ban ourselves. Yeah, because that investigation was gonna come out with those things. But you know, and I believe that go on at every school, not just at LSU.
Of course,
no,
of course.
of course not. No, absolutely not.
But those on at every school, you know, with those major football players and teams. You know, I like to look back at an old Chicago basketball player. I believe if he would have made it to college, his career might have went somewhere. But if you remember Ronnie Fields.
Yeah.
Ronnie Fields, if he wouldn't have got in trouble before he made it to college, I believe he would have been able to make it through. But because he caught those cases before college happened, I think that's what kind of derailed him. And if you think back, I don't know how old y'all is. I'm telling my age now. I was at LSU. I was at Southern at the time in Baton Rouge when Jamie Brandon.
Yeah.
I remember that Jamie Brandon. Yeah, he was one of the best high school players to come out of Chicago during the late 80s. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Totally, yeah.
Caught that case, that girl. You know, Shaq was on that team.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Chris Jackson is now known as Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
That was a really good LSU team back in the early 90s for Dale Brown. Yeah.
I was actually down at Southern at the time when they came down there with that. And my thing was they just swept it under the rug and swept him out of the way. Shaq went on to become everything. He had to change his name. So, yeah, they so a lot go on at these schools when it's involving their major athletes. I mean, I bet that's just like not to say that Trevor Lawrence will do nothing crazy or do anything crazy. If he went to a party tonight and threw somebody out the window, good chance we wouldn't hear about it.
Also, going back to college basketball history for just a second, let's not forget Stanley Roberts. He was on them part of that squad as well down at LSU.
Went to Orlando. You know, I was
Yep.
watching that Illinois basketball game the other day, and they was comparing the teams. Sid, which team do you think better? The team now, the Darren Williams, D. Brown team, or the Lou Henson, Bernard Randolph, Kenny Norman, Steve Bartow team?
Oh boy. Also to rest in peace to Jimmy Collins, who was a big part of those 80s Illini teams, also a former head coach over at UIC, had a pretty good record there. He passed away. He had been sick for a long time. It wasn't, nothing COVID related, but he had been sick for like the last couple of years. They made the announcement. His daughter, I believe, made the announcement on her social media on yesterday. So rest in peace to him, who was a big time recruiter for those Lou Henson's Illini teams back in the 80s.
Yes.
I remember too. You guys remember there was a big uproar before Jimmy Collins took the job at UIC. He should have gotten that job replacing the now late Lou Henson, but he was a pipeline between Champaign and Chicago public schools because
you can say it. He was.
Yeah,
he got all those athletes down there, as you mentioned, Lamont, with the Kenny Normans and Nick Anderson, who's from here. Hopefully, we get him on the show very soon. Kendall Gill, and like you said, Stephen Bartow, who still does games for them, and he does national games for Fox as well.
Yep.
So, he was responsible for all those guys. If you fast forward to now in 2021, it'll be 2021 soon. But you fast forward to now, 35 years later. Illinois has not had the same success. I know they went to the Final Four in 2005, as you mentioned, Lamont, earlier with that squad, but they haven't had the prize star from the Chicago Public League since then. It's been over 35 years.
It's just really interesting. Look, if you look at the from the time till now, I mean, from those flying Illini teams in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, going into like some parts of the early 90s. Then you had D. Brown, Darren Williams, and that team in the mid 2000s. Look, I know how they feel. I know they probably felt they should have won that championship against North Carolina, but look, it is what it is at this point. To now, there was a big gap there, and. Look, Brad Underwood looks like he's, finally, they finally got something going there. Unfortunately, they lost to Quanzo Martin and his Mizzou Tigers in that Bragging Rights game, which is actually a very good game. Always a very exciting game, those Bragging Rights games. And I know it's personal for Quanzo because, Illinois gave him fits when he was at Purdue. So I know, I know it's personal for him. But, I mean, look, we'll see how they do this season. I mean, look, a lot of, Ayo and Kobe, look, we'll see but they got to, look, do you know how the Big Ten looks? You guys see how the Big Ten is. There's a guy in Iowa City named Luka Garza who might be catch-up player of the year.
Look, Iowa is some beasts. I watched them. Iowa are some beasts, and they can shoot their little butts off. They're some beasts. But quick, to get back on that Illinois thing, when you was recruiting then, look at those teams DePaul had also from this Chicago area. You look at the Mark Aguirre's going in. I think that whole DePaul team got drafted. The him, Clyde Bradshaw, Terry Cummins, all of them got drafted, but all of that was Chicago talent. So when you mention the Jimmy Collins, where has that Chicago connection gone to our Illinois and Chicago schools? Because it's not there. And like Lakina said, that gap, it's been missing for a while. So who comes in to fill that gap, and how does it happen? Because it seems all our good players go to Kansas now, right?
Kentucky or Duke, Yeah,
I was just going to bring up that point, Lakina. I know at the time before, as I mentioned, the late Jimmy Collins now took the job at UIC, which he got that school to respectability, including 3 NCAA tournament appearances. Before he took the job with them, I know there was a lot of publicly high school coaches here in Chicago, they were very upset that
Yeah.
that Illinois didn't give him that job after Lou Henson retired before he went on to New Mexico State, I believe it was.
Yep.
They were upset at the time. You heard a lot of stories, you know why. But like you mentioned, Lakina, uh, all of our big time talent now is going to Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina. Even I'm sure some of them now will probably go to Michigan because Juwan Howard, Chicago's
Yep.
very own, is coaching there now. So they're going to these local schools, and schools that are suffering like DePaul and some of these traditional powerhouses from the past. They're not getting these kids anymore. You're not producing any winners. So
I think
it's real sad.
I think we need a pipeline. We need somebody to connect our public league schools to our local institutions. And like who that pipeline will be and where it will come from, I don't know. But I think that's what's missing. And I think when we had those pipelines, our local schools were much better. Like all of them, even Illinois State, it was a lot. They were better. So I think that pipeline needs to return. And we'll see, what happens going forward, because every other state seems to have a pipeline like that except ours.
Well, and you look at now, it's starting to change. I mean, Southern Illinois, Brian Warder, who's the former player there, who played against a lot of those guys, he's making it happen down there. I know Illinois State. I know they're kind of starting to sort of start recruiting some of the public league players. Northwestern is. I don't know how hard it is for Chris Collins to do that, unless, Whitney Young, those types of schools. Look, back then, going back to Jimmy Collins for a second, back then, you couldn't get anybody to go down to Champaign back in the, the mid-'80s. No way. It wasn't happening. He helped kind of.
It was only because of him.
He helped facilitate that. Yeah, exactly. Because he played in the public league. He knows how it takes to kind of recruit and all that. He gets how he learned. So that's how he was able to sort of bridge that gap. And unfortunately now with schools, and I think that's something to do with ESPN and Fox Sports, CBS. All those schools are now on television, even D3 and D2 and even NAI. I mean, a lot of those guys are going to Robert Morris and St. Xavier and those types of schools. So,
but when they show them schools, when they show them schools on TV, Lakina, they don't show a lot of the public league schools. When they had those games of the
that's fair, yeah.
They don't show the public league unless some of those public league players happen to play in some of these special AAU situations. Then that's the only time you get to kind of see them. But, I look at people that has come from, I'm going to use Westinghouse as a perfect example, because everybody always talk about Simeon, but I think Westinghouse has produced more players than Simeon that became
Mark McGuire.
great players.
Yeah, that's true.
NBA. Simeon can look at D-Rose and the list gets to getting shorter, and Jabari, it gets shorter and shorter. But when you look at the Hershey Hawkins and the Mark McGuire, the Hall of Famers and champions that have come from Westinghouse. So, yes, you still have some crazy ones that went to Westinghouse, but at the same time, I think they give Simeon all the credit. And when you hear, the one that I seen him playing last night, he went to Iowa State, came from Simeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, came from Simeon, went to Iowa State. I seen him playing last night. So when you get to mentioning those players, I think it needs to be something to come back. And, I went to Curie. And when I was at Curie playing, I played with the coach that just got fired, Mike Oliver. I was playing with him, and I remember we had a game against King. And that's when Marcus Liberty and all of those guys were playing for King. And that was the most embarrassing time of my life. They was dunking the ball off of each other. So, I think something needs to be some type of pipeline needs to be established again with the public league on all sides of town, not just the South side.
But also, so you got things also access to. I mean, like I just mentioned, just about every school is on television now. So, back then, the only way you could watch, you only watch sort of the local schools like DePaul's and U of I's and Northern and Southern and things like that. Now every school is on television. So that's why I was saying that a lot of them are going to D2, D3, St. Xavier, Robert Morris. You don't have to go to the top schools anymore. So a lot of them are spreading out. And I think that's another problem that that U of I and DePaul have to figure out, and they still haven't figured it out yet.
No. And I think I know it's switching sports, but I think that's going to happen in football with the SWAC. I think Dion going to Jackson State going to hurt a few of these schools, because a few of these players going to say, I want to go play for Dion, like the ones that came up in his football camps and things of that nature, the ones that came up in the Jerry Rice football camps. I think it's going to become a situation where all of these professional players that has these camps, even the Snoop Dogg camp, Snoop Dogg can produce a few halfway decent football players out of his camps. So
True.
I look at his camps, and I think it's going to become a situation where they start to put more attention on the SWAC. Like, I do have my tickets for the Bayou Classic in Shreveport already, but I think it's time for the little people to get a chance to. That's all.
Let's be honest, too. It's time for those schools to start winning as well. If you win and you have the best facilities as well, I know that the HBCUs don't have the best facilities or the funding all the time compared to your quote-unquote mainstream schools like Duke and North Carolina or the University of Miami or Florida State, where Deion Sanders played his college ball. But those situations are going to have to change, too. But it all starts with winning. And when you win, you can recruit some of the better athletes to come play in your program.
Well, look at North Carolina A&T. They actually left their conference. They actually left the MEAC to go to the Southern Conference. Also Hampton too. So they left the MEAC
because they had to leave because that's considered like a step or two below the SWAC. So it was like we gotta attempt to move up some. I remember I had a good friend that came out of Southern, Bobby Fields. I mean, that's an old name, but he did, he made it, but he's no longer around. But at the same time, like, it's just they don't even look at players like that. And then they always cheat. And I'm going to use the word cheat when it comes to the tournament. I never understand why every other team get a play-in, but the SWAC got to get a play-in to play in. I don't get that every year. They got to win their conference just to get a play-in to get a play-in. I don't get that every year when the tournament came. So the last 4 years when the tournament did that, I was a little upset about that. So I guess that's because I went to one of them schools, but that wasn't cool.
All right, any college hoops? What impressed you guys this weekend with college hoops? If you guys saw any of the games?
Iowa.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, I mean, Illinois is going to have a tough time against Iowa. They got Wisconsin too. They got a veteran squad, so they're going to have a very tough time in the Big Ten.
The only little college basketball I watched was during Sunday's NFL action. The first half of the schedule was bad, so I turned to the Big Ten Network. I saw Michigan barely getting by Penn State. Now they're 6-0. Shout out to Juwan Howard. I think Michigan, hopefully they learned their lesson from a year ago, so hopefully they'll become a better team, but we'll see.
If they stop shooting all threes, if they realize they can go.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm looking forward to. Rutgers and Maryland, that's a game I'm looking forward to watching. Big Ten, a lot of these conferences are starting their slate, so should be an interesting one there. Rutgers, hopefully they'll get a chance to go to the tournament. They didn't get a chance to go last year, of course, but I'm looking forward to that. A lot of these conferences are starting their games. Illinois and Minnesota. Illinois hosts Minnesota tomorrow. Clemson and Virginia Tech. I think Clemson's undefeated too. So some good games.
While we on college basketball, do you think North Carolina is as bad as they look, or you think what do you think happened?
I think Kentucky's probably the one you should be asking about.
Yeah, well, Kentucky. The reason I look at them is because you cannot continue to skirt the system and think it's gonna work forever. It's kind of like working in retail. You can steal $1 off the register every day for 6 months. Before that year over, you're gonna get caught. And when you get caught, you're gonna have to start over. And the next job you have might not be as good as the first job. So you can't skirt the system and continue to win all the time. So they come up, as you mentioned.
There's our PSA for the day.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, I'm hoping. Look, I'm sure North Carolina will get it together. They're 4-2. I mean,
I like that boy they got though. What's that son in the right? What was his name? They got a big boy down there in North Carolina, though, that he moved people.
Yeah.
He moved. So
Yeah.
I liked him. But the rest of them, they need some work.
Yeah, they do.
Before we get out of here, Lakina, you had a quick story on a former NBA player. Speaking of North Carolina, he played on that team from back in the day.
Yes, God Shamgod. If the name sounds familiar, he's from New York. He played at Providence. Got Providence all the way to the I think got all the way to like the Elite Eight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
He has written a wonderful story. It's long, like a lot of these Players Tribune type articles, but he tells you about his journey from New York to he was eating White Cats before he went to school when he was in elementary school. To his days over at Providence. Going through the New York, because we all know. Look, Chicago has we have our bragging rights too, but New York also has their bragging rights when it comes to hoops. He shared a lot of his stories, through the ranks in high school. Also, when he was at Providence, he basically said that Providence kind of saved his life. Also, to meeting Biggies. So it was part of the culture. And he was a McDonald's All-American. People forget, and I don't think we appreciated how good of a player he was, because I remember him coming out of high school, and I like this guy, just so worldly, for his young age, and now I believe he's coaching now. So
yeah, I was I remember, he's funny. He mentioned eating White Castles before school. That's actually the best school meal you can get. You pop 2 in the microwave and go on to school. I was a big White Castle guy going to school. But that's and while you mentioned it, college, I was going through some of my papers the other day. I had covered a high school All-American game that was here in Chicago. You remember when Kevin Love was on the high school All-American team, and he was on the same team with O.J. Mayo?
Yeah, I remember.
And O.J. Mayo was the superstar. And James Harden was on that team also. James Harden was in that game also. And you look at where those people' careers gone now, and out of the 3, the only one they talked about at the time was OJ, and they would mention Kevin Love because he was going to UCLA at the time or whatever.
Yeah.
And it turns out that Harden has became the best. Like I was running across some of my magazines and found the program where I had with all of the autographs in it from the program. And I was like, oh, this is neat. James Harden became the superstar to all of these players. So that was just, a neat, and how a lot of these older college players, like I haven't heard nothing about Stephon Marbury recently, but I'm gonna have to look him up and see if he's still a hero in Japan. I know he was a hero over there. He got his own statue and everything.
Yeah.
I was wanting to see, was he coming back or what was he doing going forward? But I like to see older players get some. I hate that a lot of Chicago players don't come back to like the public league schools, like we was mentioning earlier. Like DePaul have a couple of people that can come back and try to, give them a hand. Where are the former, people that's from the area coming back to try to help their schools. So.
Right, absolutely. And going back to God Shamgod for a second, he shares some stories about, Kobe going to his camp and how he felt after, of course, what happened with his, Kobe's tragic passing. So if you guys haven't had a chance to look it up, his story is fascinating. So make sure you guys check it out. It's just a very fascinating story. It's a little long, but it's worth the time, I promise you. So any of you guys what are you looking forward to watching this week before we get out of here?
More preseason. I want to watch my people play. I can't wait till them games tonight. I'm gonna watch them games tonight. I got them set to record. More preseason.
What about you, Sid?
Yes. Same here. More preseason NBA basketball. By this time next week, the NBA regular season would have started. So just let's see that get back into the swing of things. Hopefully, everybody stays healthy, so we have a good 2021 regular season when it starts next week.
Yeah, very uneventful too. Very uneventful. Let's hope. So.
Yeah.
With that said, you can follow me at Keena McGee on Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow me at Lamont Scott on Facebook, Lamont Scott 69 on Instagram, and Lamont Scott 16 on Twitter.
You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and Instagram at SidKA. Once again, at SidKA. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Excuse me. You can go to our website at weareregalradio.com. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. You can look up this podcast, Second City Sports, along with the other podcast programming from War Media by simply searching for War on Anchor. Wherever you download your podcast, including the iHeartRadio app, make sure you type in that search engine box, War on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor. We're also on the Tube, aka YouTube, at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on YouTube. You can all listen to us, but watch us do our thing live.
All right, make sure you like and subscribe. So,
Yes.
guys, please stay. The way Lamont said. So, guys, please stay safe out there. And, wash your hands, wear your mask, keep your distance, stay warm too. I know it's getting colder here. But for the guys, I'm like,
very cold.
Yes, it is. Sorry, Lamont. But for the guys, I'm Lakeem. This has been Second City Sports Zoom style, and we'll see you Friday.
Peace.
Zoom style. Till next time. Holla.